Hey everyone, this is Nitro. So, by the vote today, people wanted me to stream today instead of later this week, so I'm going to get the stream started covering what remained of my Apex Arena matches to get me into Langrisser rank. So first of all, if I just bring it up quickly, just gonna double check and make sure the chat is working. Seems like the chat is working there, but it doesn't seem like it's showing in the chat box itself. So give me a moment to try to fix that. Annoying. Hello, thank you for joining. I'm just trying to figure out why the chat box is not working. There we go. Okay, so clicking a little bit on the chat box option made it work now. So there we go. So yes, thank you. Yeah, I managed to get Langrisser rank this weekend, and I thought I would just do a stream covering what remained of the battles to get me into Langrisser rank. So I guess in the week 1, I primarily relied on Serrill to get myself into the 1800 level, and then I started experimenting and adjusting my box, which caused me to lose a lot of matches, lose more matches than I won. And then this last week I decided that I really need to get myself into Langrisser rank, so I focused more on that and I guess more or less succeeded. So in terms of like, I think I was like the 43rd or 42nd person to get into Langrisser rank. I stopped as soon as I hit 1901. So there were people who got into Langrisser rank after me, but since they played more matches, they got higher rank than me. But it was around, when I got in, there was around, I think, 40 or 41-ish people. So let's get started by covering some of those battles. So I was scrolling down a little bit. I'm just going to skip this one because I covered it in my way to build Clotaire video, right? Basically, Clotaire used 2 mobility skills, AoE'd me, and then won. So I'll just skip that one. You know, if you want to see that battle, you can just check the way to build Clotaire. You'll see what happens there. So let's start with this one against Maybz, where I basically won by breeze. I mean, pretty common, especially at this level, but let's see what happens. I don't even really remember this match at this point. So, Maybz's box has Akaya like me. It has Hiei, Serrill. It's actually kind of interesting because he is running kind of a assassin with AoE mix, right? He has the Hiei and Serrill assassins. He has Akaya for mobility buff. He has Ares for both single target strike or AoE, versatile in that sense. He has Imelda for mobility buffing as well. But then the rest is AoE oriented, right? There is Gizaroth and Hobo, right? The mythical faction buffers. There is Bozo here. There is Arianrod here. There is Rin here. So you can see that there's a mix of the mythical characters to benefit from, I guess, their faction buffs. And then, of course, Akaya is also mythical. So there is enough mythical characters here to bring those 2 faction buffs, I suppose. And yeah, so it's like an AoE / assassin box. I was originally running something very similar to this in a lot of ways, and I kind of transitioned away from it. At this point, my box has a bunch of assassins. There's 3. There's Omega, Serrill, and Illustrial right now. Right, there is Akaya for the mobility buff as well. So I'm running a sort of similar thing, except I have less AoE attackers and more single target strikers. Meaning, you know, Yulia is here, right? Oh no, at this point I still have Licorice. So actually I am running something kind of similar to him. Okay. In any case, so the first character he banned was my Rosenseal, right? Given the AoE team, he pretty much has to ban Rosenseal. So I responded by banning his Akaya because he has no Rosenseal. Actually, I think he only has one healer, which is Liana. Oh no, there's Liana and Wowler, so there's a reduced number of healers to fit all those other characters in his box. And I began with Juggler. He quickly banned my Akaya and Deedlit here, and so he plays Reen right off. So I get rid of the 2 faction buffers right away. So get rid of Hobo, get rid of his Gizaroth. And I play my Zerda. I now lose Liana and Wowler, so that gets rid of all 3 of my healers. Right? My 3 dedicated healers are now gone. And he quickly plays Imelda. Next then, I ban his Ares and Zerda, and I choose to play my Licorice. Omega and Ares are now banned, so he's steadily getting rid of my single target strikers now. And he plays Arianrod. Alright, I ban his Hiei, ban his Deedlit, and I choose to play Illustrial. So I'm still going for my 2 assassins. On Maybz's side, he gets rid of Hobo and Reen now, leaving me just Yulia and Ledin. And Maybz plays Liana. And on my side, I just ban his Juggler and Wowler now, leaving him the choice of Bozel or Landius. And of the last 2, I decide to pick Ledin, while Maybz ends up picking Bozel. So 3 AoE attackers, an Act Again, and a mobility buff, whereas I have Juggler, Zerda, Licorice, Illustrial, and Ledin. So, what this basically means is I can have my Zerda faction buff Juggler, and I can have my Ledin faction buff Illustrial. And I made Licorice pretty much a kind of healer character. She has Mass Heal, Dark Despair, and Demonic Event, no faction buff. And on his side, Liana is bringing Prayer, Act Again, and Gospel. Bozel has a faction buff for himself. And Reen and Arianrod both have no faction buff, but he does have Liana Gospel, as well as Mass Attack from Imelda, and Queen's Whip. So he is getting some attack boosts anyways. So Imelda providing these buffs kind of works for him. Although, yeah. And he has the healing from Liana, ultimately. So, maneuvering begins. As usual. Spiritual unification. One thing to note is this is a Swordsmith Reen, so it has 4 mobility rather than 5. Right? But keep in mind there's always Imelda's Queen's Whip to add 2 mobility, you know. So you can kind of say it is actually 6 mobility, although 7 would have been more terrifying, I think. But 6 is still pretty annoying. So I'm just maneuvering to make sure I stay out of range of Reen. And so he responds by first having Arianrod Sturmlance forward, and then having Imelda Queen's Whip buff Arianrod. So although I'm avoiding Reen mostly, Arianrod now has the mobility to charge in quickly and strike, which is fine. I mean, I'll just deal with it as best as I can. And I start off by activating Demonic Events and then laying down some terrain effects, Breath of Darkness here. So the final action for Maybz is to act again Arianrod and have her Grand Cross. She just rushed in and Grand Cross right away. So my response is Dark Despair, which breaks one of the shields, but doesn't break the physical shield, of course. It broke the magic shield, but not the physical shield. And it provides a decent amount of healing to all my characters. Ariane Rod launches the... Yeah. It ended up being the Breath of Darkness causing damage to Ariane Rod and so on, triggered her act again. So she first started Grand Cross, I replied with my Dark Despair, and now Ariane Rod used Total Destruction to do quite a bit of damage to me. Right? But Sturm Lance is still on cooldown. Right? So he doesn't actually have a third AoE skill to actually kill off any of my characters. So instead, Ariane Rod retreats. And I'm perfectly okay with that. So I start having my Zerda trigger her skill. And next, I decide to Righteous Duel Reen into range. So Reen did have a mobility +3 buff from Licorice. Right? And so I was able to have Reen charge forward and basically mobility reduce Reen down to just 1 movement by doing so. He now triggers Mass Attack. I have Zerda's Strike. And because she is striking from a grassland terrain, or forest terrain, sorry, she gets some healing out of it. And then I can retreat back. More importantly. So, keep in mind that Roundabout only lets you retreat 2 tiles. And so that's exactly why I attacked from 3 range. Because with the 2-tile retreat, I could get into the mountain instead. I could have attacked next to Ledin and had its soldiers to participate, but then the disadvantage would have been the 2-tile retreat would have only gotten me here, and I couldn't get all the way back to safety, which would not have avoided Reen. So, in order to keep my Illustrial alive, I made sure to retreat that extra bit, or extra bunch, and it meant I did less damage, but the flip side is Illustrial is currently safe. So, last turn, Licorice had triggered Clocks. Right? That's the whole reason to use Licorice, right? In hopes of triggering Clocks. And since she triggered Clocks, I get to launch out a second Dark Despair. This one I launched out further away because it didn't touch Reen. Or, sorry, it did touch Reen. It hit Reen. But I couldn't hit anyone else, and in large part that's because I wanted to heal up Illustrial. Right? If I move here, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Illustrial would be in range of the healing. If I moved 1 tile further, then Illustrial would not be getting healed. So, this kind of long range trigger for healing. His response is Termination Slash to hit Licorice and my Ledin. And Licorice is basically dead at this point, guaranteed. With the 2 burn stacks and heal reversal, there's no way I can keep her alive anymore. Ledin, on the meanwhile, has 2 burn stacks and cannot heal yourself. Well, whatever. First, Zerda jumps in, assassinates Bozo, and then retreats. Ledin, because he has multiple debuffs, gets killed by Imelda. So I killed Bozo, he's finished off my Ledin. But at the very least, Reen has acted, and so has Imelda. So there's 2 actions left for him. Ariane Rod and Liana right now. Alright, so my action is to have Juggler jump in here. And unfortunately, Ariane Rod having that physical shield meant that she just totally shrugged it off. And so Liana actually gospels herself, and that provides some additional healing to the other characters. Right? By gospeling herself, she gets 20% increased int, so her talent provides a bit more healing. Alright, so Illustrial comes running in, Jade Storm finishes off. Jade Storm finishes off Reen, and Ariane Rod, who was not going to act again that turn, made a physical strike on my Zerda. So it doesn't kill her because last rites. So So despite the 1,641 attack, doesn't kill my Zerda, just damages her quite a bit. And because Zerda at this point still had the extreme magic bow, I got a lot of retaliation damage into Ariane Rod. So I just have Zerda, strike, Ariane Rod, and I actually thought that would be enough damage to kill, but it really wasn't. But when I looked at this now, my attack buff was gone. So that's why. So I only had 1,257 attack, missing 20% extra attack, and so it actually didn't give me enough damage to take down this Ariane Rod, unfortunately. But that's why he runs Grand Cross in the first place, right? The whole point of Grand Cross is to remove buffs from your characters. So, Ariane Rod survives, has the opportunity to launch at 2 AoEs. And there we go. Sturm Lance, act again, total destruction, Zerda's dead. So, it's now 3-on-3, with me guaranteed to lose Licorice. Alright, let's have Juggler take out Imelda to start. And then place Juggler next to Liana, so that she can't move. Illustrial then finishes off the very, very weak Ariane Rod. So jumping back quickly a little bit. So first, Juggler with Beast Shock. Clearly, Beast Shock is going to kill anyone. So that attack easily wiped out Imelda. And then due to having the Zerda faction buff still, I was able to move after killing someone and place myself next to Liana to lock her down. And then Illustrial, who still has the Emerald Crusher skill as well, launches out her attack to quickly wipe out Ariane Rod. I'm not going to allow Ariane Rod to move around like crazy when she still has +2 mobility. So down goes the Ariane Rod, and now surprisingly Licorice, I thought Licorice was guaranteed to die, but she actually survived the 2 burns. So she got to cast the mass heal to raise my other 2 characters to full, and at this point Maybz retreats. I mean, all that's left for him was Liana. All I had to do was have someone attack, then the other character attack, and Liana was dead. So that was a kind of interesting battle because I initially spread out like crazy, right? And yes, of course the key point was getting the mobility buff onto Ledin, okay, from Licorice. The Tenyo's headdress, applying the mobility buff on Ledin definitely helped a ton because it allowed my Ledin to charge forward in Righteous Duel. But nonetheless, it was still a very interesting match overall, I think. So that was the very first battle. He is running a very interesting team though. Ariane Rod is very much an AoE kind of attacker, and the combination of Imelda 3C with Ariane Rod for the assault AoE is pretty interesting. That's one reason why I really wanted to share that. The next 2 I just said skip. One was lost to RNG. I don't even know what caused that loss. And then this one I want to show Akaya. So let's go. So once again, I am continuing to make adjustments to my box. Right? Before I just had Ledin and Juggler in my box. At this point, I threw in SP Freya as well as SP Elwin. So I might finally transition to bring the new SP heroes now. And other than that, I removed Omega and brought Hiei in the box. So still keeping Rin. But yeah, it's a slightly different adjustment. The 3C is dispellable. Do you mean like a pre-battle dispel? I suppose if you have Sword Soul or something like that, yeah, you can take out Ariane Rod. But there's not that many pre-battle dispels other than Elwyn. So it's still quite difficult to kill Ariane Rod. So overall, you can see that my box has been adjusted to mostly fit the current meta. On Donson's side, he is still running like a Season 5-ish meta box. You know, with Sophia, with Rachel. I'm actually not sure why Luna's here. But yeah. There is SP Elwyn though, and Hobo. But overall, it's... Looking at this, I was kind of weirded out. I mean, I guess you can say it's a Yi-less box with... Yi-less Legends box with some Legion of Glory heroes, right? So, and then also a mixed in of Mythical with Hobo, with Juggler, with Zerda, with Rosenseal. So it is kind of a mixed box. The only character that really doesn't make sense to me in this box is Luna. Luna has long been obsolete. I mean, yes, she can kind of mobility buff, but even then, I don't recommend Luna of all characters. On my side though, you know, I'm basically running a Legion of Glory and Origins box now, right? With the Origins characters is Freya, Hiei, Juggler, Diglett, Akaya. The Legion of Glory characters is Ledin, Elwyn, Illustrial, Liana, Yulia. Ares is factionless, pretty much. I mean, Reen is here, but yeah. So I actually even removed Hobo for now. This was just an adjustment that I was making to see how this works out. And my Zerda was quickly banned right away, and I just banned his Juggler to start. Playing my Akaya in response. So I lose Hiei then, and Ares. And he plays Landius. So I get rid of SP Elwyn and Ares in response, and I choose to play Reen. So Juggler and Yulia are now banned. He plays Rosenseal. So I have not banned his Rosenseal, so he very quickly played it. And I get rid of his Yulia and Rachel now, and I play Ledin. So the next characters to lose is Liana and Wilder. I still have Rosenseal as well, interestingly enough. That's not often that I get to see a Rosenseal pick as a fourth pick. He plays Zerda. So I get rid of Hobo and Rene, getting rid of the characters who get buffed by Landius. I've actually been able to pretty much get rid of all his damage dealers at this point. So he has Landius as a tank, he has Zerda as a damage dealer, but really no other damage dealers left. And on my side, I play my remaining healer, Rosenseal, of course. So both of us end up with Rosenseal. Illustrial and SP Elwyn are now banned, leaving me Freya or Diglett. And on his side, he chooses Ledin. So I'm ending up with a very, very odd faction mix. In the case though, I get rid of his Sophia and Wilder, leaving him the choice between Luna and Liana, and I choose to play Diglett rather than Freya. So I wanted another damage dealer rather than Freya, and he chose to bring Liana, of course. So, initial maneuvers is to have Reen activate Spiritual Unification. Enemy casts Mass Crystal. And then I have Diglett Gospel Upgrade. So he ends up with 2 tanks, 2 healers, and Zerda. I end up with 1 tank, 1 AoE attacker in Reen, Diglett, Rosenseal, and an Akka. Quickly activating Obliterate on his side. And I just cast Mass Crystal Heal. And finally, Akaya just moves up for now. Next, I have her trigger the mobility buff on everyone. So now, Rin, for example, has +3 mobility, raising his mobility to 6, or sorry, +2 mobility, raising his mobility from 4 to 6. He has Gospel buff, and actually, he also has +30% attack due to the Akaya trick activation. Ledin also has 5 mobility, and Deedlit also has 5 mobility. Actually, Rosenseal is out of range, so she can't quite provide the. She doesn't move 5, unlike the others, because I moved Akaya that far forward. I'm okay with that though, because I just have her activate Crystal Ward right away. Since she's not going to be really in the fight, I might as well Crystal Ward. Now, interestingly enough, Ledin also got an extra mobility. So Ledin's mobility is now at 6 rather than 5. And I guess Donson didn't really notice this because I actually have the opportunity to move Ledin here and attack this Serrill. So maybe he still thought my Ledin had 5 mobility. So with that extra mobility buff, I was able to pull Serrill and take her out. Just like that, Serrill is dead. He no longer has a damage dealer. He does respawn by pulling my Ledin. And so both sides take a whole bunch of damage. My Ledin is currently locked down, but since I still have the +3 mobility, I can still move 3 tiles back to retreat out of range. So it's just that Ledin doesn't guard anyone right now. Oh, Rin can run in and launch out an AoE, but because of Rosenseal healing, pretty much all of that damage is healed up. So it just goes to show how Rosenseal really does counter AoE attackers. Rin ultimately did not apply any debuffs and did barely any damage. He continues to melee attack my Ledin though, and Ledin is just tanking the hits and responding with lots of damage output. So Deedlit, Sea of Miracles, heals up Ledin quite a bit. And he acts again his Landius to reactivate a guard skill, Peace of Mind. So I just have my Deedlit launch out a single target strike, Elven Aura, output some damage, and now he opened up a spot for me to move my Ledin in. So I took full advantage there. So he moved Rosenseal to provide healing to Landius, but it opened up this spot for me to move my Ledin, and so I quickly walked in. Because first, I can attack Liana like this, and second, Righteous Duel lasts 2 turns. So now, Liana is locked down. Landius is locked down, Ledin is locked down. Of course, Landius can move 2 tiles since this is the cavalry Landius, so it could still get out of the way to still provide guard. Now I use Blood of the Sheikah and then Beastal Outbreak DD to act against her. Meanwhile, Donson is healing up characters, doing all sorts of things. I'm launching out another AoE. No debuffs once again, except one actually applied onto Rosenseal, because she does not have as many, I guess, crystal barriers as the other characters do. So actually, Rosenseal had 1 debuff. Ledin actually had 1 as well, so they both have 1. I was hoping, of course, to get clocks to launch out more AoEs, but that didn't quite happen. Still, I got some debuffs into the enemies now, although Landius is still has 2 crystal barriers. And I can have Deedlit act, due to the act again from Akaya. So, I have her Gospel herself to start, and then I attacked and hit Landius, which was probably a bit of a mistake. I should have hit Ledin, right? I think what I thought here was I could hit Landius and, I could hit Rosenseal, right? I just was not thinking, and because Landius had moved back, he was guarding Rosenseal. So my best bet would have really been to hit Ledin. In any case though, he provides mass healing, but the problem right now for him is that Liana is dead. By moving this tile, I've locked down Liana so that she can't move out of the poison. So Liana's gonna burn to death. He did get a mobility buff on his Ledin now, so Ledin has 3 mobility to move out of my Ledin's Righteous Duel blocking range. So he starts off by having Landius attack my Deedlit, but I don't die. The whole reason I use Crystal Warlocks on Deedlit is to absorb hits like this. So that's exactly what happened. Crystal Warlocks, being stupidly tanky, just completely stopped that hit cold. And Deedlit survives. Keep in mind as well, Deedlit currently doesn't have any kind of defense increase from her talent either. So without any kind of defense increase, the Crystal Warlocks had enough hit points to just tank that hit from Landius and shrug it off entirely. Meanwhile, I'm just maneuvering characters. His Liana has to do her action and kill herself, right? Which is why I didn't move my Ledin. I was moving everyone else but Ledin to make sure she dies. So it was a combination of Akaya act again, changing the turn order so that I acted second instead of first, as well as Ledin having the Righteous Duel up and running that forced this Liana to die. If I couldn't act again, then my Ledin would have had to move first, and then Liana would have been able to get out of the way. So, Akaya, once again, paying off. Or act again paying off is what I should say. So now, I have to move my Ledin. But I already got an extra kill out of that. So, Ledin being an MVP here. First taking down Zerida by Righteous Dueling her, and then trapping Liana in poison and causing her to die as well. Ledin just moves back now, so he's guarding all my remaining characters. And it's currently a 5 against 3. So one other thing I've done is, with the new Wolf Soul creation by Aka, I've dropped the Wolf Soul to block Landius from moving anywhere. Right? I'm trying to keep him in poison, so he's wrapped around his 6 mobility Ledin, but most of his characters are still blocked out of the way. And for now, let's heal up everybody. Okay. He is wrapping around, trying to keep characters alive, but at this point, frankly, the battle really is over. It's 5 against 3. My Aka is Mage class, which means she can endlessly attack at 2 range, and Ledin, being melee class, can't do much about my 2 ranged attackers. So Aka gets to weaken Ledin, right? Deedlit gets to maneuver forward, act again, and then also 2 range attack Ledin. And then I have Reen jump in, now that Ledin is dramatically weakened, taking off Ledin's first life. And then at this point, Donson realizes there's nothing he can do when I can launch 3 attacks after his actions every single turn, he just retreats, right? Because literally every single turn at this point, I can have Aka, then Deedlit, then Rin attack. So he just surrenders. And there we go. Okay, so I saw a message earlier about yeah, AoEs can do good against Rosenseal, but you have to pray for clocks. Yes, that's totally right, Boomer. I actually completely agree with that. I had, you know, if I got clocks to trigger on Rin, I could have launched up more AoEs and I could have started applying debuffs. So you are right. But clocks didn't trigger for me that match. And okay. So let's move on to the next battle then. Well, with that said, I didn't need it, right? The whole point of this strategy was basically an Akaya assault. You know, mobility buff, charge forward, and then lock the enemy down in poison, and it worked out pretty well overall. I also had, I also got lucky in the sense that I got an extra mobility buff on my Ledin. So that extra +1 mobility really was key. And because of this match, I actually changed up my Ledin's gear. My Ledin is now running Divine Boots. So now Ledin has 4 base mobility. So that way, if I ever get Aka with Ledin, I won't need to rely on getting an extra 1 additional mobility on top of that. Of course, keep in mind as well, I should also mention, my party, the party that I ran had 3 different Tenuous headdresses. Akaya has 1, right? Deedlit has 1 because she's in her mage class right now. So she was bringing Tenuous headdress as well. And finally, Rosenseal, of course, being in the mage class, had a Tenuous headdress as well. So with 3 different Tenuous headdresses, I did have a pretty darn good chance of getting mobility buffs on my characters. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I also changed my Deedlit back to mage class. Right? Just being able to consistently attack at 2 range and mobility buff others. And of course, I have a tendency to use her 3C skill on Deedlit. So I actually prefer to bring Spirit Dancer, because Spirit Dancer would then allow Deedlit to attack and retreat. So there's a lot of reasons why I changed Deedlit to mage class. It's definitely not for everyone, it just fits my party well. Okay, that's all. Yes, and yes, the combination of Act Again and yeah, the mobility buff is just a crazy combination. I've actually been seeing a lot of people ban my Akaya first as a result. Alright, so that was the Akaya win battle. Let's go to the next one, where I lost because of Hellfire Archers. It'll be a quick match. It's quick enough that I'm not sure I want to even go through the pick ban. But yeah, sure. Once again, I begin by picking Akaya. Right? I've lost Illustrial, Rin, and Yulia. He plays Illustrial. I now get rid of his Rin and SP Elwyn, playing my Zerda. So Juggler and Waller are now banned. I can choose to pick a tank later now because I have 3 tanks rather than just 2. Right? There's Juggler, there's SP Freya, and there's Ledin. So I'm no longer locked into picking a tank early. And so it gives me more opportunities and options, basically. So he picks Ledin second, I ban Liana and Yulia, and I play SP Freya. Because Akaya benefits, I guess? I'm not sure why. Okay, SP Elwyn and Deedlit are banned. Right? Oh, I think, yeah, I'm actually not sure why I picked SP Freya. Maybe just because I wanted to try her out. I think that was the reason. I just wanted to try her out instead of Ledin. In any case though, Zonvolt plays Florentia, and now I ban his Deedlit and Zerda, and I play Liana. So he gets rid of Ledin and Ares, playing Lanford, and I have the choice between Hiei and Rosenseal. So I get rid of his other tank, Elucia, and get rid of Waller, leaving him the choice between Landius and Hobo. I play my Hiei, and he plays Landius. Yes, Akaya gives +2 mobility. It's +30 attack and +2 mobility. So, first action, Freya activates her faction buff. So for this particular battle, I had her bring her faction buff, I had her bring Rose Lash, and then the third skill I decided to bring was Lance Phalanx. Because sometimes her guard skill is down. Right? It lasts 2 turns, and the guard skill only lasts 2 turns. So there's a 2-turn cooldown and it only lasts 2 turns, meaning you can't permanently have her being guarding. So I decided to bring Lance Phalanx because looking at his party, most of the characters were physical damage. Zerda, faction buff. Enemy Ledin comes running forward, and this Ledin has 4 mobility. Right? So the spirit boots Ledin, we're seeing another one of it. And interestingly enough, I didn't even consider this, but Lanford has the strategist faction buff, which buffs both Illustrial and Florentia. I mean, I knew it buffed Florentia, but I completely forgot that it also buffed Illustrial. To be fair, I mean, Ledin buffs Illustrial as well, so he had a bit of an overlap anyways, so Illustrial would have ended up with a faction buff either way. Well, so be it. Akaya, Blood of the Sheikah, followed by Wild Power. So I mobility buff everyone here except for Zerda. And I didn't need to buff Zerda because she activated Breeze. So she already had +2 mobility. It does only last 1 turn rather than the 2 turns that Akaya's buff did. But so be it. One of the reasons is also because of Illustrial's range. If I had placed her here, yes, I could have buffed Zerda, but then I would have been attacked by Illustrial. Although it would have been at 3 range, so it probably would not have killed me. Regardless, I chose to buff and not buff. Sorry, I chose to not buff Zerda, so it is what it is. And now I quickly choose to act again, Hiei. Because Hiei has 6 mobility right now, so you can move up 6. Then move up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 after that. And this is, so I had him first, Dragon of Darkness Flame, act again, now has 7 movement because Dragon of Darkness Flame gives him +1 mobility. So I have 7 movement to move into attack. Right? I can attack any of his characters at this point. Any of them. So I'm like, who would be the best character to kill here? I'm like, probably his healer, right? Because if I get rid of his healer, none of his remaining characters can heal at that point. Well, Illustrial can, but so be it. So I go after her, and I die. Without killing Florentia. So why did that happen? 2 reasons. Okay. First of all, Florentia had a Source of Metal. So before combat, Backstab did not do any damage. Okay. Secondly, I forgot about this, but I'm running Hellfire Archers. Hellfire Archers do not do anything to bishops, okay? You do not run demon characters and charge them into holy characters. So that's why she lived, because of the bishops. Okay. Bishops at level 10 also have defense increase of 30%. So I completely forgot about that. If I had run any other soldier, any non-demon soldier on Hiei, Hiei would have killed Florentia. But because I ran demon soldiers, Hiei himself had to waste a lot of strikes to kill the bishops, and so she lived. I mean, I don't know if it'll help, but let's take a look. Let's see if this helps demonstrate it. So yeah, you see a whole bunch of... You don't really get to see it very well. But what definitely happened was the demons doing absolutely nothing to the bishops, Hiei having to waste strikes killing bishops, then not having enough strikes to kill Florentia. I can try normal speed, but I don't think it'll help. Let's see. It's because you... Oh, so big mistakes there, ultimately. So that pretty much is an instant loss. I lost my Hiei for killing nobody. So in hindsight, what should I have done? I probably should have had Hiei kill Illustrial. Nice and easy. Hiei would have done backstab damage before combat, then, you know, would have just crushed her very easily. But targeting Florentia meant that I lost a character without killing anyone. So it's now... And then, of course, Florentia can start healing up herself and providing buffs and whatnot. So I'm totally screwed really, at this point. Yes, more or less Boomer. Although I'm not although Hiei having to hit the bishops is already a mess. I'm not sure if Hiei even... yeah. So, you know, there's nothing I can do to get a pull to come from behind at this point. It is also worth mentioning though that I probably would have struggled a bit in this fight because although my Aka has 1762 attack, her int is significantly lower, 1446. And his characters are very defense based, right? Ledin has 1000 defense, Landius has 1000 defense, Lanford has 952 defense, so it would have been difficult for me to kill them anyways with only one magic attacker. But if I had Zerda along with Aka to attack, I think I would have been able to manage it. Anyways, well, 100% if I had killed Florentia, but would have been more interesting if Illustrial was dead, but as it is, there's no chance of comeback, so we'll just retreat, go on to the next fight. Just lots of little mistakes there. So while Hellfires are a great general purpose soldier for Hiei, don't always use them because they're not good against holy enemies. So then there's a whole bunch of skipping battles, just not worth watching, and then there's an Ares win. So Chibi's box has Albedo as one of the tanks. It also, so it's a very dark oriented box, okay? Albedo, Renata, Mozel, Licorice. There's also Sophia to buff up the non-dark characters, right? Like and a Hobo for his faction buff for Mythical. So Juggler is Mythical, Hobo is Mythical, Sophia is Mythical as well actually, Zerda is Mythical, and then there's a few Legion of Glory heroes like Elwyn, Liana, and Illustrial. So Deedlit buffs herself in general, and then there's Ares of course. So more or less each character has at least one faction buff. It is a little bit of an odd mix though. Has my box changed since the last battle? yes, I removed TA and threw back Hobo into the box. Right? Just adjusting a little bit. Right? I wanted to test out Hobo to see if he worked in this kind of box, especially since I'm continuing to run Reen. Right? If Reen was gone, then yes, I wouldn't need Hobo. But since Reen is in play, having a faction buff for him is kind of important. So, what I mentioned about Akaya getting banned first, right? This happened. Okay. And Chibi starts with Albedo. So, Bozol and Licorice ban, and I play Reen. So, Illustrial and Zerida ban, so getting rid of my 2 assassins, and he plays Liana. So I get rid of his Juggler and Zerida, and I play Hobo. So my Juggler and Liana are now banned, and he plays SP Elwyn. So I'll ban Ares and Illustrial, getting rid of his assassin, although he still has Renata. And I play Ledin now. Next, he gets rid of my Yulia and Rosenseal, and Chibi plays Hobo. Which is kind of interesting because the Hobo is not buffing anyone in his party right now. But I think it was for terrain effect versus terrain effect, right? He didn't want me to lay down terrain and then he wouldn't be able to remove it. So be it. I get rid of his remaining kind of assassin character, Renata, get rid of Deedlit, leaving him with the choice of 2 healers. And on my side, I play Waller. He got rid of my other 2 healers, so I had to play Waller as my remaining healer. Deedlit and Freya are now banned, and that just leaves me SP Elwyn and Ares. I'm actually really surprised he left me SP Elwyn, given I already had Ledin in play. You know? Of all... It was not the ban I would have done for that last ban, but so be it. He played Sophia rather than Waller, and I choose between SP Elwyn and Ares, and I chose Ares. Not quite... I just wasn't sure which one to pick, I guess. So I chose Ares. Whatever. And the initial actions is to kind of buff characters and so on. So, Reen here is getting faction buffed by my Sage of the Trees. So, rotating Sage of the Trees in kind of worked out, right? They're buffing each other, Waller has no faction buff, Ledin buffs himself, and Ares kind of buffs himself. Ares is bringing Wind Whisper in this fight, rather than Noble Charge. I'm not sure if that was a mistake I made, or if I actually wanted it. Oh, I think I did want it. Yes, I did. I chose to bring the AoE because I had 2 other AoE attackers. Right? Sage of the Trees has Wave Whisper. Reen is an AoE attacker, so I chose to make Ares an AoE attacker as well. Even though he has 2 healers, I felt that I could overwhelm them. He lays down Light Array. That's why you don't rely on one-shotting Daba. The whole point of SP Elwyn is laying down the cannot be healed effect, and potentially one-shotting if the enemy, you know, Lancer soldiers are damaged. So Sage of the Trees lays down terrain effects, Dazzling Light in this case. And I just quickly have my Hobo, Wave Whisper, and knock back my enemies. Reen activates his Spiritual Unification, and Elwyn already begins his charge against me. Sword Souling Sage of the Trees, and taking down his first life right away. So, I Righteous Duel Elwyn to me, and take down his first life. Without his soldiers, he's pretty easy to kill. So, or with damaged soldiers, I should say, he's pretty easy to kill, and most of his soldiers were damaged. Even he himself was damaged. So, Ledin quickly Righteous Dueling, right, with 1,758 attack, takes down Elwin's first life. And pulls him far away from the others, more importantly. Because Gallowmere, because he's probably not expecting, well, if, for example, he hits Ledin, then that may very well not kill my Ledin, or whatever. I would have not made that kind of action if he had Frontal Assault, put simply. And of course, Frontal Assault doesn't remove buffs, which makes it much more difficult to one-shot a character in the first place. So now he acts again, Sage of the Trees. Clearly he's aiming for an AoE to probably kill off my Sage of the Trees. So I was like, you know what, why don't I tactically retreat my characters away? Pull them to safety. Well, he launches a Wave Whisper. Attack. And I have my Ares, Fearless Hurricane, and Wind Whisper down. Ares. Wind Whisper down, Elwin, to take off that life. Next, Ledin moves up and melee strikes Hobo, but Hobo actually managed to live. Barely, but he managed to live. More annoyingly is the fact that because he had a +3 mobility buff, he can actually retreat, which was not my plan. My plan was to have my Ledin move into range, reduce his mobility by 3, and then Sage of the Trees is trapped and can't retreat. Didn't quite happen. And he gets to launch out Wave Whisper, knocking my characters back. I try to take him down then with my Reen, and unfortunately I think he barely survived, right? Let's see. 2,850. So one problem here is that first my Reen is running Swordsmith, and second my Reen is 5 stars. Okay. So with this AoE, if I had a 6-star Reen, this would be a kill. Oh no, I did. Sorry, never mind. I did get the kill. It's just that he revived. Okay. So I did get the kill. He just revived. Has 4 debuffs on him, and his healers in the back also got massive debuffs. So everyone got debuffed. Reen applying lots of those nasty debuffs. And he starts burning and so on. Although Liana does remove. So he did manage to remove the heal reversal, luckily enough, and so he was able to heal Hobo back up to full. Now, if the other two, it was a 50-50 chance there. If Liana didn't remove the heal reversal or whatever, then it would have been better. Oh, actually, Sage of the Trees never got heal reversal. Never mind. So between Liana heal followed by Sophia heal, Sage of the Trees was okay. Well, so be it. There's now a full hit point Hobo again, although it's on the second life. The healers are pretty heavily damaged, and Albedo is there to guard. In the meantime, I'm just getting my character skilled up properly. And since he's just laying down more and more terrain effects everywhere. Let's launch out another AoE for free. This time, it applied heal reversal onto Sage of the Trees as well. So more debuffs on, I guess, a few more debuffs on Liana and Sophia, heal reversal on Sage of the Trees, clocks triggered for once for my Reen. And he's trying to heal that up. He did heal it up, and he did remove the heal reversal. So now Sophia can provide healing. And now is a good time for me to activate high stakes at this point. So Ledin starts combat by melee attacking. Ares starts combat by melee attacking Albedo, taking advantage of the wave of the high stakes buff. Wilder now dies. Because I triggered high stakes, he didn't have enough hit points against that Wave Whisper. Which is fine, you know. I'm oriented towards single target strike at this point anyways. Right. So just attacking and healing up my characters. And he triggers Rewind. So I'm not doing quite enough damage to kill off the characters at this point. But keep in mind, I've only been using 2 AoEs, right? Because Ares had to waste his AoE to finish off Elwyn earlier on. So now, Rin launches out the AoE, the Arc Slash, and he triggers Clockline again. Meanwhile, he starts maneuvering characters back. First starts off with another Light Array from Sage of the Trees. But I'm now at the point where Ares finally reactivated his skills. So he can Fearless Hurricane, Wind Whisper, get the other AoE hit, and down goes both Sophia and Hobo in one hit. So all that's left is Albedo and Liana. I'm actually surprised Liana survived, frankly. But because Liana did not have full hit point Shrine Maidens. So I'm honestly surprised Liana survived against that. But she did. I guess this is a ridiculously enchanted Liana. I don't really see very many Lianas with 12,000 hit points and 585 defense. But I guess with enough enchants, Liana can actually survive Ares' AoE. But despite that, he is not in a good situation, so he gives up. Yep, the initial assault from SP Elwyn cost him that SP Elwyn very quickly, and then let me wipe out the rest of his team after that. Alright. Next up is this match. So, this is a match where I'm facing off against a single target team. Yeah, most of the time people do bum rush their SP Elwyns. I mean, it's a fact that you can launch 2 Sword Souls in a row, right? As long as the SP Elwyn doesn't die. So once again, Akaya is first banned. As I said, I've been seeing this so much at the top level that people are banning Akaya first, rather than anyone else. And Risotto's box is one variant of the single target striker box, right? In terms of single target strikers, there is SP Elwyn, Claret, Ares, Yusuke, Illustrial, Deedlit, Rosalia. And then there's the mobility buffs for them and damage increase buffs like Imelda mobility buff, Tiara's attack blessing, Wyler stat buffs, Estelle for mobility buff as well. Deedlit can also be a mobility buff with accelerated aid. And yeah, Liana is here, or sorry, Zerda is here as well. It's a single target striker. And then there's 2 tanks, Landius and Juggler. So one of the variants, there's a lot of different variants of the single target strike box, but this is one of them. So I just start by banning I'm just banning the characters that can guarantee that he one-shots my tanks. And I start with Tiaris and play my Ares first. So I lose Wyler and SP Elwyn now, and he plays SP Elwyn to start. So I get rid of Imelda and Wyler, and I play Ledin. So he gets rid of my Yulia and Illustrial, playing Liana. Right. And I get rid of his Ares and Juggler, playing my Juggler. So I have 2 tanks. Now I lose Rin and I lose Zerda. And he chooses to play his Zerda. So single target strikers with Liana for act again. Deedlit and Yusuke getting rid of more of his single target strikers or mobility buffers. And I play my Liana for my own act again. And finally, he gets rid of my Rosen Seal and my Hobo, leaving me the choice of Deedlit or Freya. So he plays Estelle, and obviously, well, I get rid of Illustrial and Claret, a few more single target strikers, and obviously on my side, I am going to play Deedlit. And then Risotto plays Rosalia, of course. So he ends up with 3 single target strikers, Zerda, Rosalia, Elwyn. He ends up with a mobility buff in Estelle, ends up with Liana for act again. Which is, I mean, mostly you can't stop that kind of pick at this point. But you can kind of counter it, sort of. To begin, I have Deedlit maneuver next to Ledin to mobility buff Ledin. Actually here, I didn't give my Ledin the Divine Boots yet. So otherwise I would have had 5 mobility. Right now I only have 4. He quickly has Zerda, part of Alhazard, right away. So he's using a Zerda that's relying on the Estelle buff. Enduring Hope buff, and Zerda quickly does Heart of Alhazard to attack. Oh, I'll just Gospel up my Deedlit first, and on his side he acts again, Zerda, so I know he's trying to kill off my Deedlit. Very obvious, very blatant there. Well, so be it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to offer Juggler in front. So Juggler, Sacred Beast Hymns in front, in a tile blocking Zerda from attacking Deedlit. And he starts by having Elwyn strike Juggler. It strips 5 buffs, but all it does is it kills the lobsters, because I'm in water, right? This tile here is Swamp, so Swamp is water. Even if he strips my Triton buffs, I'm still in water. So there was no issue there with Juggler tanking the hits. And now Zerda comes in and fails to kill Juggler. Which was really, really funny to me, okay? Left my Juggler with 4 hit points, even though this had a Crystal Beast thing. There's several reasons. First of all, his Blood Path doesn't trigger here. Because all my soldiers were dead, he was not triggering Bloodbath, so he was missing that 10% attack increase. Secondly, this Zerda does not have a faction buff. It has the cheer buff from Estelle. So all the cheer buffs provides is a 12.66% attack increase. It's not 20%. So and then third of all, Juggler, with soldiers dead, he does take reduced damage, right? So I think he's getting something like 30% reduced damage. So the combination of all these factors kept my Juggler alive as a result. So a nice little combo there in keeping my Juggler alive. He just wasted 2 attacks just like this. So I quickly follow up with Ares using Noble Charge on Elwyn. And then that also does a bunch of damage to Zerda. See, I actually thought I would be getting guarded by Juggler, but remember, my Triton buff got removed. So Juggler actually is not guarding Ares. And so Zerda is able to quickly range attack and kill off my Ares. So be it. Ledin, Righteous Duel, pulls Zerda to him and takes down Zerda. And then, because I did that, Deedlit is no longer being guarded. So Rosalia gets the opportunity to attack Deedlit and take her down. Deedlit is pretty tough, but she's not tough enough to survive an attack like that. Not with Chivalry, Sword of Protection, and Ultimate Judgment. So it's like, it's turning into, you know, 3 different characters killing each other one after another. In hindsight, I probably should have had Deedlit at range attack and kill Zerida, right? Because if I did that, then I could have moved back after that. Because Spirit Dancer, after you attack, you can move 3 blocks. So I could have had Deedlit move up, strike and kill, then move back 3 blocks into Ledin's guard range. So that was a mistake on my part, for sure, and he took full advantage to take down my Deedlit. So in response, I'm going to try to keep my Juggler alive now. So Juggler moves back, Juggler gets act again, Juggler hides without activating Triton, because Rosalia does not have enough mobility to reach him by doing so. And Rosalia no longer has an attack skill. So I am gambling here in the sense that, well, actually I'm not gambling, because I know Rosalia does not have a Twilight Star, right? If Rosalia had Twilight Star, he could have killed my Liana, but I knew he didn't because he attacked my other characters, and I didn't see a Twilight Star trigger before that. So, since he doesn't have one, he starts off instead with Phoenix Wave from Estelle. And fortunately, Juggler is just far away enough to avoid it. So Juggler is still alive! Well, first, I move Ledin here to block Rosalia from attacking any of my other characters. And now that he can't attack any of my other characters, I move Juggler up a little bit. So Rosalia attacks Ledin. Not enough damage to kill, which I fully expected. Not enough damage to kill for both sides is what I should be saying, right? Ledin tanks it. Although I triggered blood, I did trigger my magic armor as well. And now Liana provides healing to both of my tanks. So 3 on 3. First, let's have Liana Gospel up Juggler to make him tankier. And then, Juggler moves into Beast Shock Estelle. So Estelle now is no longer guarding the other 2 characters. Rosalia triggers act again, or Rosalia gets act again. I have Ledin attack Rosalia, but Rosalia now can trigger her actions again. So she starts by Chivalry, healing up, Sword of Protection, healing up, and then single target strike on Ledin, but I triggered Thorns this time, and that was enough to get rid of Rosalia. So, Thorns trigger, that's exactly why I run Thorns, right? The combination of the Thorns trigger damage reflection with Ledin doing 2 times retaliation hits took out the Rosalia, ending the fight. Of course, in the first place, I should mention, like, he never even killed my Ledin once, right? So my Ledin also has the revival chance. So actually, you know, I mean, if I didn't trigger the Thorns, I might have died, but I would have revived. If I triggered Thorns, then goodbye Rosalia. Right? And he's been melee attacking me over and over again with Rosalia, so that's hoping for a lot. It's always dangerous to melee attack Ledin. For good reason. So, this battle is where I actually fought against the Stinger Zerida. So, Esterification. Another single target box mostly, right? With Akaya, Zerda. Surprisingly, there was Risotto mixed in. With protagonist faction buff and Matthew. So there were a lot of not exactly meta characters, but with that said, he is running almost all protagonists. Yusuke, Matthew, Elwin, Ares, Risotto, Ledin, right? All of them are protagonists. Liana is protagonist as well. Estelle is protagonist as well. So, interesting. Alright, so I ban SP Elwin first, playing my Zerda. Ares and Akaya are now banned. He plays Zerda as well. So I get rid of Juggler and Iris, Tank and Healer, playing my Juggler. And he bans my Illustrial and Yulia, playing Estelle. Alright. So the mobility buff there. Oops. So I banned his Liana and Wilder now. So I think that gets rid of all of his regular healers. So he only has a combat heal. He only has Deedlit now for healing, really. All his regular healers are gone. There is Deedlit for combat healing. There's, I guess, Hobo for combat healing. I guess Yusuke heals himself, but everyone else is kind of without healing. And I play Ledin. So now my strategy has clearly been, tank the hits and cause him to die. Meanwhile, he bans my Deedlit and Green now. I still have all 3 healers and Hobo and SP Freya. He plays Aka here. Ares, Deedlit, ban. I play Liana now. Act again as well now. Hobo ban. Freya ban. So that leaves me a second healer. Wilder or Rosenseal. He plays Yusuke. I get rid of his Matthew and Hobo. So both faction buffs for Yusuke are banned. And what I end up picking is Rosenseal. Right? So he has a choice between Risotto and Ledin. And obviously, given that choice, he chooses Risotto. Right? Especially since Risotto is part of Meteor faction, so he gets buffed by Zerda. Alright, so let's start maneuvering aggressively. So Zerda is actually not bringing her faction buff. It has Heart of Alhazard, Bloodbath, and Backstab. Aka is here with Blood of the Sheikah, Wild Power, and Beastal Outbreak, the standard skill combo. Yusuke is Psychic Eruption, Dark Tincture, and Spirit Gun, so no faction buff either. Risotto is Strike, Prodigal Son, and Sneak Attack. And Estelle is just whatever, right? The usual. He starts with mobility buff for everybody. Juggler Triton. Zerda faction buff. There's Zerda, Heart of Alhazard. And I have Rosenseal, Crystal Ward. So the whole point of this setup is, or my thought for this setup was, I'm kind of forming a wall, right, of characters for, I guess, Zerda to attack, more or less. And I figured that, I would be fine with keeping my characters in the back where he wouldn't be able to attack me properly. So I was looking at this, so Risotto can move here, then move 1, 2, 3, then my Zerda will be just out of range. So that was my thought. Right? He now has Akaya, Blood of the Sheikah, then Wild Power. So that triggers Yusuke's buff, because the character died, and they all get a mobility buff too. Well, I forgot to consider that this mobility buff is now +2. Okay? It's no longer the Estelle +1 mobility buff, it's now +2. So Risotto can actually move here, then move 3 more to attack. So I wasn't paying attention to that, and I ended up having Zerda activate her Alhazard where she was standing. So Risotto now gets to charge in and assassinate my Zerda. Interestingly enough, Risotto is so pathetic he dies as well. Okay. So he got the assassination, but Risotto dies himself. Kind of ridiculous. Still, Zerda was my only damage dealer, so it puts me in a pretty bad situation. Okay? Despite him dying, it's still 4v4, but I don't have really a damage dealer at this point. So I end Rosenseal's turn first, maneuver Ledin up a little bit, Yusuke gets off an attack, and I have to have Liena heal my Juggler back to full health. And then, what he does is, after that first attack, Yusuke gets acted again. Alright? So now Yusuke can strike once more. But he teleported into a terrible position. Right? He teleported himself into a tile diagonal to Estelle. So I quickly have Juggler, mark up the Sacred Beast, and place my Juggler next to the enemy Yusuke. So now Yusuke can't move. So all he can do is melee attack. So he does try to have Yusuke melee attack, and Yusuke kills himself. And then Zerda assassinates my Juggler after that. He really messed up there, big time. He should have had Zerda try to assassinate my Juggler first. Because if Zerda assassinated my Juggler, then Yusuke would have been free to attack. But because he had Yusuke attack first, Yusuke died, and then Zerda did kill my Juggler, but that was after losing Yusuke. So now, it ends up, it's actually 3v3. Go figure, right? Ledin, Rosenseal, Liena against Estelle, Akaya, and Zerda. (3v2). Ledin Righteous Duel, or that was my initial thoughts, but Ledin Righteous Duel actually hit Estelle. So I thought I could pull Akaya and kill her, but instead I couldn't because Estelle guarded against that strike. So I'm just like, oh crap, that might have been a game-losing mistake. Here he goes with Zerda. So right now he has everyone guarded, but so I have Rosenseal take down Akaya. Alright. So because Akaya had been damaged by Ledin, or sorry, because Akaya had been previously damaged by Juggler with the Sacred Beast hymn, her hit points are low enough that Rosenseal can easily finish her off. So at the end of the day, it ended up being 3v2 anyways. Okay? So Rosenseal managed to finish off Akaya. Zerda kills off Rosenseal. So I move Ledin down towards this Zerda. But he also moves Estelle down. So going back quickly a little bit. Okay. Because he triggered +3 mobility from Akaya, Estelle has 6 mobility, so she can move all the way down to a position where she could be guarding Zerda. So be it. Right? I have Liana melee attack the enemy Zerda. Because I knew, being Holy class, I would do a crap ton of damage to those Hellfire archers. So once again, Holy class advantage over Demon class is just ridiculous. Even in the melee range, Liana did a crazy amount of damage to those Hellfire archers. And now, I take full advantage of Righteous Duel. Righteous Duel is still up for one turn. So, by moving Ledin down here, I was able to disable Estelle's guard and kill off Zerda. And suddenly, the battle has become Liana and Ledin against Estelle and the Wolf Soul. So, and then Esterification ends up surrendering. A lot of mistakes this match on both sides. Lots and lots of them. I should have never lost Zerda that early, for example, right? He should not have done a lot of things. Like, there were a lot of actions he could have made to win. Nope. But, because of the way it played out, I ended up winning. Go figure. Alright, and the last battle to cover will be the battle against Jagger, where I actually end up using both Freya and Ledin. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the main reason you bring Hellfires is to get the fixed damage after combat. But yeah, I think Zerda should be running Assassin Soldiers now if you have them available to you. Zerda can one-shot jugglers. We've done a lot of... I've been doing a bunch of testing. Zerda is absolutely insane now, actually. Let's put it this way. Zerda one-shotted my Ledin, okay? And my Ledin has something like 17,000 hit points and 1,000 defense. So Zerda went through 17k hit points and 1,000 defense to one-shot. It's absolutely insane what she can do. Alright, so let's do the final battle. Me against Jagger. So, for this particular fight, Jagger runs a bunch of time and space characters. He's running a debuff box, right? AoE debuff box. So there is Joshua, there is Sakura, there is Licorice, Bozel, Lambda, right? All of these are AoE attackers. There's also Angelina here for AoE attacks. Arianrod is an AoE attacker. Hobo is an AoE attacker. So you can kind of see that it's almost all AoE attackers. Even Ares is AoE, really. Wind Whisper, right? Juggler with teleporting forward, you know. If you don't run Sacred Beast, if you don't run Beast Shock, you can always run Master of Ice for double AoE. Even Florentia has an AoE. Right? Florentia's 3C is both a heal and an AoE attack. So you can see he's running like a purely AoE strikers. Even Rachel as well, side note. The only characters who are not AoEs is Liana, Rosensteel, and Landius. That's it. Everyone else is an AoE attacker in this. Yep. Zerda can assassinate Juggler through Last Rites. Zerda pretty much kills everything now, okay? Long story short. The 20% defense reduction is absolutely insane, what it's allowed Zerda to do. Alright. So, my first ban is Juggler. I want to get rid of a tank that can also AoE. Juggler ban on both sides. Ingable, that is exactly why I spent so many tickets on the dagger. Right? Yes, the stinger. There's a reason why I drew for the crystal stinger, okay? Oh, thanks for noting that. I'll change that after this. The Shrine Maiden skin. Yeah, I just didn't even notice. So, yeah, there's a reason why I was so desperate to get a stinger. I really wanted two, but you know, 180 draws only got me one. I don't have any more draws to spend on another stinger at this point. Okay, so let's continue. I played Ledin first, and he now bans my Rosenseal and Liana, getting rid of both my healers. Or two healers, I should say, right? For his AoE team, obviously, targeting my healers is going to be top priority for him. So he plays Landius, his sole remaining tank. I start by getting rid of Bozel and Ares, and I play my Wyler. Right? Ares had to be banned because Wyler is too vulnerable to Ares otherwise. So Dietlit and Yulia are banned. He's getting rid of my healers, or combat healers as the case may be, and he plays Hobo. I get rid of his Liana and Florentia now, so leaving him Rosenseal, and I play Zerda. I lose Hobo and Ares. At this point, he plays Rosenseal, and now I ban Licorice as well as Joshua. Right. And I play Illustrial. He gets rid of Akaya and SP Waller, and plays Sakura. This, actually, if I go back a little here, that was probably my big mistake. I really should have played Akka here, right? Akka could have enabled Zerda to assassinate very quickly to get rid of, you know, damage characters and so on, but I didn't do that. So, and it's fine. I mean, I went for Illustrial, whatever. Just made it harder to use my Zerda. Moving on, he plays Sakura. So I have a choice between SP Freya and Rin, right? I already know from before that Rin is useless against Rosenseal. So clearly not worth playing Rin. I get rid of Rod and Angelina, leaving him the choice of Rachel or Lambda. And I end up choosing to play SP Freya. And he plays Lambda. So, I have overlapping faction buffs once again, right? Freya can buff Illustrial, Ledin can buff Illustrial, Zerda has to buff herself in this case, and I have Waller bringing high stakes, regroup, and dispel. He's laying down some terrain effects. I'm starting with Zerda buffing herself. And just kind of maneuvering characters around. Oh, one side note. Rosenseal here is running her faction buff to buff up Sakura. So Rosenseal has faction buff, Miracle, and the Mass Crystal healing. Mariel is ridiculously overpowered. She can basically act twice for her first combat, and her second combat will ignore guard. So she'll attack once, act again, then do an ignore guard attack, more or less. She also serves spear, yes. So, right now I have Zerda with Bloodthirster up and running, ready to target the enemies. And he's just buffing up his characters like crazy. So, I maneuver my Illustrial here into this mountain tile. Alright? I was looking at this, I'm like, Lambda has a bunch of 6 range skills, 6 blocks. So if she moves up here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'll get hit by Sakura, I'll get hit by Sage of the Trees, but those will not kill my Illustrial, or shouldn't, right? So I'm like, okay, so this setup should be okay. Right? So that's why I placed her here. It was kind of I was like, I'm gonna bait out some AoEs, make him waste some AoEs there. Well, Lambda launches an AoE and hits my Illustrial. I'm like, what the heck? That was 7 tiles, right? Well, when I clicked on the Lambda again, her talent says, when casting an AoE skill, skill span +1. I so rarely face Lambda that I didn't even know that, okay? So yes, when Lambda runs single target strike skills like this, she actually has 7 range. And of course, Ice Missile does, yeah. So that 7 range attack knocked my Illustrial down to 52 hit points, which meant Sage of the Trees can easily finish it. So suddenly, it's 5v4. And right now he's positioned in a way where Zerda can't reach anyone as well. I'm maneuvering forward. I was hoping, clearly desperately hoping to get a mobility buff from Wilder onto Zerda for +3 mobility. Didn't happen. Right? So Zerda can only move up a little. Zerda reactivates Bloodthirster. And I'm just running forward. He miracles up. And my Wilder maneuver forward actually provided Zerda with a mobility buff now. So Zerda has full range to attack anyone here. He can't keep his characters safe anymore. So given that's the case, he started AoE attacks. Lambda starts with an AoE. Sakura follows up with another AoE. So Sakura took a bunch of damage beforehand because of Freya's new talent. Right? As long as enemies are within 2 blocks of Freya, she'll do fixed damage to them. So Freya took he took a bunch of damage, but he'll build it back up. Oh. Zerda quickly assassinates Lambda and gets to retreat back. Right? So, kill Lambda, retreat. Now, Sakura tries a melee attack and takes a whole bunch of damage. Because Sakura no longer has any AoEs. She used her first AoE, Hakarorin, on Illustrial, and used her second AoE just now. And then so, that first melee, that attack from Sakura, against a Freya with 966 defense, she basically shrugged it off. And got a decent amount of damage into Sakura. And this is where I activate high stakes. He has no more AoEs to launch. So, Freya, high stakes, takes the hit from Hobo. And now Ledin jumps in and righteous duels in the middle of the enemy. More importantly, locking down Rosenseal. So once again, Rosenseal is locked into poison. She's going to die. Especially since she doesn't have her free C, right? So Rosenseal is locked down. Landius is locked down, but he does have a +3 mobility buff. So he can move to guard. Which is what he does. And I just have Freya maneuver forward and faction buff. So Rosenseal gets off that final faction buff for Sakura, and that's it. Meanwhile, I have Ledin melee attack and kill off Hobo's first life. Okay. So by maneuvering here, I can once again prevent Landius from guarding and melee strike this Sage of the Trees. So first life gone. So Landius is forced to move again. And now a new Rose Lash from Freya kills off Hobo. So Ledin got the first kill. Freya with Rose Lash got the finisher on Sage of the Trees, who just revived. So now suddenly it's 4 against 2. From 5 against 4 to 4 against 2. So Sakura tries to melee attack. Good luck with that. I have Wilder's high stakes up as well. And at that point, Jagger runs away. So there we go. So assassin boxes still work. Well, AoE boxes are good, but pretty much my box is meant to counter these AoE boxes in the first place. That's why I have both Illustrial and Zerda in my box, right? I can ignore guard attack and then quickly wipe out those AoE attackers. And once the AoE attackers are eliminated, there's not much they can do. And there we go. So I definitely made mistakes early on. I mean, I really should not have lost Illustrial the way she died. But it ended up working out because there were not enough AoEs for Jagger to keep using after that. And that will be it for this stream. So mostly this is the box that I've been running, right? Ledin with the 4 movements so that he can take full advantage of Righteous Duel. Especially if he gets a breeze buff. Although I didn't get the opportunity to use it, Zerda now has a Crystal Stinger. Rosenseal is now 4 stars. So she is much better now because her talent now is a 2 block range rather than just 1 block range. And I'm going to change the soldier skin that was mentioned. So there we go, Shrine Maiden soldier skin. And yeah. Yeah, Freya is pretty interesting. For getting rid of, exactly, as you say, it's for getting rid of last rites and for potential AoE damage once you get into range. Yeah, Rosenseal is actually really good at 4 stars. I think she showed up in a few of my matches. Even this week. Even on this stream, I should say. And that will pretty much be it. Show you the match where Santichai lets me win. I misplayed it big time, but sure, I'll show it. I actually massively misplayed this match. So Santichai is running another version of a single target strike box. Right? Once again, Akaya, mobility buff, Tieris, attack blessing, Liana, act again. There's a lot of single target strikers, Sonya, Ares, Toguro Bros, Elwyn, Zerda, Wilder, or sorry, not Wilder, Hiei, Deedlit. There's Luna for mobility buffing as well. There's Iris for mobility buffing and healing, Wilder for stat buffs in general, Juggler for whatever, you know, teleportation, AoE and so on, and Ledin in the center here. So priority is clearly get rid of Akaya in my opinion. She does too many good things. Right? Act again, she does mobility buffs, it's just too dangerous. He gets rid of my SP Freya and plays Juggler. So I get rid of Wilder and Ares to start and play Ledin. He gets rid of SP Elwyn and Yulia and plays Zerda. So I get rid of Hiei and Iris and play my Juggler. Hobo and Illustrium now banned, and he plays SP Elwyn. So I get rid of both remaining healers, TRS and Liana. And I play Ares. So Akka and Liana are now banned on my side, and he plays Deedlit. So I get rid of Sonya and Luna. So he has a choice between Ledin and Toguro Bros. Clearly Toguro Bros is what's going to get played. And I play Rosenseal now. So Deedlit and Zerda get banned at this point. And he plays Toguro Bros. I have a choice between Reen and Wilder. So obviously Wilder's the pick. Once again. So not too much to say about this. It's just he has Deedlit with Accelerated 8 in Spirit Dance and Sea of Miracles. So clearly a mobility buff. Deedlit. Toguro Bros is as usual. SP Elwyn is as usual. Zerda is an assassination character. So I start with a Mass Crystal Heal and got a mobility buff on Ledin. Okay. So I was hoping to get a mobility buff on either Ledin or Juggler. Got one on Ledin right away. And I have Ares provide King's Crown buff to Ledin as well. Zerda activates the Heart of Desire. And Rosenseal, Crystal Words. So I'm now starting to maneuver forward. And the enemy Juggler, Sacred Beast Hymns. I quickly pull a tactical retreat to pull the some of the characters back. Right. And this is where I make a big mistake. Okay. You'll see. So I start by triggering high stakes. And Juggler maneuvers back. Alright. This is the fatal mistake. I accidentally Righteous Duel Zerda into guard range of Juggler. Alright? So instead of killing Zerda, which is what I wanted to do, I ended up striking Juggler. So that was absolutely the fatal mistake right there. So, in order to make use of that, I was like, I'm really screwed, but let's try to kill off Juggler. So Ares jumps in with Noble Charge, did not do anywhere near enough damage. It wasn't even a bait, because it was just me screwing up, okay? Because I had extra mobility on Ledin. Ledin could have moved here, and then struck from this tile. That's what I should have done, right? I should have moved into this tile and struck. So I just flat out screwed up, okay? But And then so I threw, I guess you can say I threw in good money after the bad by trying to kill Juggler, even though Juggler was in water. And clearly, not enough damage. So things get even worse. There. Deedlit jumps in, but Ledin, because of having high stakes, heals up. And I kind of try having Juggler jump in. As I said, once I screwed up on killing Zerda, I knew I was really, really screwed. So I was just desperately trying to engage now. So, in this fight, Ledin lost his high stakes. And so, because he lost high stakes, he didn't heal before combat, and plus lost his first life. No, it was very much going to be a gamble. I knew that from the start. You know, like, I would only get to keep 3 buffs. So, I think I had 8 buffs in total that could not be removed. Like, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 Righteous Duel. So those are the ones that can be dispelled. So there was a 50-50 chance, or actually less than 50-50. You lose 5, you keep 3. So there was a chance of me keeping high stakes, but I knew it was going to be a gamble. And I didn't get to keep it, so Ledin dies for the first time, and he's kind of in trouble now. And so, even if I kept it though, Elwyn would have Sword Soul the second time to kill me. Ares finally manages to kill Zerda, but I pretty much had to waste 3 different attacks to get him. Right? I had to waste Ledin, I had to waste Ares, I had to waste Juggler teleporting in as well. So I now no longer have any real attacks left to deal with the remaining enemies. So at this point, I'm hoping that Juggler can beat shock Juggler, and it was not enough damage. The enemy Juggler survived with like 2,500 hit points, which healed up to 44, and so on. So now I don't even have Beast Shock, and Ares is down. And the battle is basically over. Togro Bros gets to jump in and take down my Rosenseal, who's had just gone out of the 3C state. I was hoping Wilder's range attack would be enough to kill Juggler. It also wasn't. Right? So Wilder Wilder had 1,000 int. Juggler has 525 magic defense. Hopefully I can get the kill. Not quite. Still trying to kill Juggler. Finally dies. Right? Juggler, after Beast Shock, had to attack again and got the kill. So now he's having Deedlit strike my characters, but Deedlit does not have Gospel or anything like that, or a skill. So I'm able to tank those hits. It is still 3v3, but definitely not in my favor right now. And unfortunately, what happened there was I made another big mistake. Okay? I could have had Ares move up and melee strike, and I didn't. And because I didn't, Deedlit was able to kill off my Juggler, just like that. Alright. So what I should have done was have Ares move over here and attack Deedlit. Since I didn't, Deedlit got to do a full damage output and take down Juggler. So I try to have my Ares single target strike Elwyn. But unfortunately, or surprising to me, Ares failed to one-shot Elwyn here. Actually a really big surprise to me, but it's a combination of multiple factors. First, I was missing an angel. Okay, so 85% hit points meant I was missing an angel. And second, Elwyn is, I guess, in mountains, getting extra 10% defense. Actually, he was missing a unicorn too. So this was like a situation where I thought I would kill Elwyn, and I didn't. And so also, because I didn't weaken the Deedlit earlier, right? Deedlit attack healed up Toguro Bros. Does Ares get extra damage for moving 5 tiles? I could have sworn I looked that up recently and I didn't see anything. Oh, Ride the Wind. Got it. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I guess I should have moved up here and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so that was my mistake as well. Yeah, I moved 3 tiles, so I was missing 10% damage. That's why. Yeah, I should have moved here, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe the 10% extra damage might have killed Elwyn. Who knows? But at the end of the day, all the enemies survived, and so it's battle over. Ultimately, what you can say is the main reasons I lost is probably it's because I mistargeted with my Ledin. Once that happened, the whole plan, the whole strategy for my fight collapsed. Serenade, Eddie, you'd be surprised, okay? It's angels generally get the kills, okay? You're missing 10% damage, that's really the difference. Or sorry, you're missing 10% attack. So the angels have 20% attack increase as opposed to 30. But the big but at the end of the day, as long as you have the Wind Ride buff, angels generally do enough. It was just me not moving the 5 tiles. Red Wraith basically identified the issue, that I did not move 5 tiles for the attack. If I had moved 5 tiles, pretty sure Elwyn would have fallen. Because I didn't, Elwyn did not die. Yep, have a good one, Ignoble. So, making a lot of mistakes this match, ultimately. Ledin attacking from the wrong tile, Ares not moving 5 tiles for the attack, you know, Ares not weakening Deedlit optionally to keep Juggler alive. Multiple mistakes. But yeah, I felt I had an advantage in the pick ban, but then I just really misplayed this fight. So it is what it is. But fortunately, Santichai was kind enough to retreat and just let me get into Langrisser rank there. And those are all the battles I want to cover. I mean, there's no other battles to watch. Yep, Elwyn raises a good point. Remember, the angels have that 45% magic damage reduction too. Of course, with that said, Steel Wings do have like a 30% magic defense and magic defense increase. This is the other reason why I'm not using Steel Wings. They're level 7. I don't have the resources to upgrade them, and angels have been one-shotting everything I attack in general. So well, at the end of the day, Santichai retreated and gave me the win, so I'm Langrisser ranked for now, and I won't be playing all that much at this point. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, as I mentioned, with this final box that I was running, I ended up winning, I think, 5 matches and losing 1 to 251k. So it was 1 match, 2 match, 3 match, 4 match, 5 matches after the initial loss to 251k. It is, and I think this box works quite well for me. The only thing I've been trying to decide, some adjustments that I've been making is, I think I'm going to remove green from my box, because people have been, like, ironically enough, people have been leaving me the choice of green at the end. Right? And it's because I don't have an AoE box. Because I don't run AoEs, green does not really have a place in my box, so I think I'm going to remove him and throw in Hiei as a 3rd assassin. So that's probably what I'm going to try next time. Alright, so that will be it for this stream. Angels also have higher power. I don't think power is really the thing you should judge by, guys. Yeah, Fire Lord. I think 3 assassins will be pretty interesting. Like, Green really has no place in my box. I played him a few times in these matches, but generally speaking, he really underperformed, right? It would be different if I had more AoE attackers. Like, if Bozo was in my box, you know, if even Bozo was in my box, then I would probably play Green. But as it is, it makes no sense. When Lolijess comes out, who do I plan to take out for her? I have absolutely no clue. I'll figure it out then. Maybe Yulia. But it's going to take me a long time to grind up Lolijess anyways. Right? My suspicion is I'll probably get rid of Yulia. Yulia is really, really, really slow. So she's the most likely character for me to get rid of. But there may be other characters, you know. I'll have to experiment, right? I might get rid of Akaya, who knows, right? Or I might get rid of one of the assassins. So, but it'll have to be one of those. Like, I'm keeping, or maybe even Dietlet, right? But ultimately it'll have to be one of those characters. But for now, this is pretty much it. Mariel is really strong. That's pretty much it. Mariel and Lolijess were in pretty much everyone's boxes for the playoffs on Chinese server. Some people missed out on Mariel, but almost everyone did play Lolijess. Alright, so I hope you all enjoyed the stream. And good luck with your Apex Arena matches and getting to Langrisser rank. So, thanks for watching, everyone. And Nitro out.